The following is a presentation of the Force Center podcast feed.
From the center of the galaxy, this is the Force Center podcast feed, and this particular episode is the Mandalorian Report.
Is it now? All right, that seems great.
We have with us today in our studio Paul McCartney being possessed by an alien space pirate. That's what we got. I'm Joseph Scrimshaw, in the person who makes some kind of noise after I say the Mandalorian Report. Sometimes music, sometimes pirates, is Ken Napzok.
Hey, everybody, we're here. It's a pirate life for me.
Yeah, man, we got to do all of our introductory stuff to talk about what we want to talk about, but it's hard not to dive right into all of the facial moss, the Easter egg basket stuffing that is Gorian Shard in the pirate. The whole pirate world, fascinating stuff, fascinating. We will get into that and all of the big ideas, and hey, you know what? This is going to be full spoilers for The Mandalorian, so we'll also get into the sudden appearance of Casual Zeb. Very, very excited to discuss not only Zeb, but the way he's just like, hey, everybody, oh, is this a big deal? I'm just in the background of a bar. Don't worry about me. Love that very much. We want to do some quick plugs here at the top. We know that we get some more eyes, some more ears on the Mandalorian reports. So we want to let you know that we are doing a big push on our Patreon. We are expanding out from talking about Star Wars to also talking about some other things. We're talking about Indiana Jones and the Perilous Podcast. The first episode is available now. We're going to be discussing all of the Indiana Jones films building up to Dial of Destiny. So if you'd like to join us on that journey, you can check that out. We are also building to a new goal at $2,000 a month. Jennifer Landa, our partner here on Force Center, is going to make a series of YouTube videos that's basically NPR talks about Star Wars. Charming, thoughtful, energetic, but investigative analysis of really interesting Star Wars topics. So if you're interested in helping us make that happen, interested in any other awards we got, just go check out patreon.com/forcecenter and see if it is for you. Ken, any thoughts on Patreon?
Hey, number one, we always love those who have supported for a long time, and we love those who are jumping on. And as we grow and put some weight into that, so lean into it with our backs on Patreon. The Discord brings in more and more people, and I'll confess, sometimes I'm always like, oh, who's going to show up, and are they going to get the vibe? Man, all the new names, all the new faces, so to speak, in Discord have just jumped right in and really helped keep the Force Center friend feeling alive, and I really want to thank you all. And that also means those who are there and have been there for a while, you just the vibe comes out of you. So we appreciate it.
Yes. Thank you for the vibes, which I say in a joking way, but it really is true. We want to build a community that can have a fun and safe place to talk about Star Wars, to disagree, but as long as it's disagreeing in a friendly way and keeping it fun, that's what we're all about. So thank you to everyone who has joined us. Speaking of vibes and hanging out and talking, we also want to let you know that we are doing a live Q&A on YouTube this Friday, March 31st at 2 p.m. Pacific. We've been doing these for months now. They're a ton of fun. You send in whatever questions you want. Ken and I will have a drink and thoughts. We're also going to experiment a little bit. We're going to do a chunk of that Q&A where we're going to do a little bit of Other Center, where we're going to talk Star Wars for the vast majority of the time, but then we're going to open up to be like, you got questions about music, cars, Twin Peaks, Game of Thrones, whatever. And we'll see how that goes as we continue to experiment with everything that Force Center can be. Any thoughts on that one, Ken?
I cannot wait for cars questions. So you and I can talk. You can talk about a Yaris, and I can talk about a 20-year-old Mustang that's falling apart. Let's do it. I'm excited.
To be clear, I meant the cars we owned, not necessarily the movie cars, which I've never seen, but I'll try.
Yeah, we could do that too. I enjoy the cars ride at Disneyland, Radiator Springs. We can talk about that.
I did enjoy Radiator Springs. I got a whole story about that. Anyway, But we're not here to talk about cars today. We're here to talk about ships and pirates and Unity, ? We are going to be talking about the latest episode of The Mandalorian, Season 3, Episode 5, but in the grand scheme of things, Chapter 21, entitled The Pirate, written by Jon Favreau, directed by Peter Ramsey. This episode is about 38 minutes of actual storytelling, but it felt very full and satisfying to me, Ken. We always talk about our experience, our prep, like it's a medical procedure, but much more enjoyable, I think. What was your prep to watch The Pirate this week?
Man, yeah, dealing with that colonoscopy last year, which dealing, I'm happy to have it. It was good, but it's like that was some prep. That was some prep. That was prep. Like yeah, not like that indeed. Midnight viewing for me. What was the fun wrinkle was our buddies Alex and Molly Damon are out in LA for some work, and they were texting. Alex was texting me, so excited to have a midnight experience. He's like, he was joking. He was like, I feel like a Hollywood elite. I get to watch this at midnight now. And, that was kind of a fun experience. I was just like, yeah, we are spoiled. Midnight is late, but it's not 3 a.m. and we're spoiled. So that was part of the fun. And one of the things I'll say is, there was no thumbnail up. I've seen as the time of this recording, I'm sure it's changed, but there was like no thumbnail, and I was laughing. I was like, that means 20 different things, but I was laughing that Disney's got to be like, hey, no thumbnail. Someone get the thumbnail right. Like, YouTube channel's problems on Disney Plus. But then I'll just say this before we get into it, but like then the previously on popped up, and always pay attention to that. It's always going to set you, of course, for what's going to be discussed in that episode. There was so much stuff. I was like, oh, this is going to be a packed episode. I got to pay attention, open my eyes and see, because a lot's going to happen here, and a lot did.
Yeah. No, I really loved the previously on at this point is like, and now you can tell which clips from the trailer will probably be in the episode that you're about to watch as we count down to having seen almost all of the trailer clips. I also did have the midnight experience. I'm sure many people who are lucky enough to have the midnight experience on the West Coast have described it that way, but it was nice to see people tweeting this week about having the midnight experience, and getting the text from Alex and Molly was wonderful. So I was extremely happy to have the midnight experience. But I admit, I went low to go high. I got real grumpy during the day. Just general life stuff, feeling busy, all that. But I so love The Mandalorian, and I so love The Bad Batch. And I know for a lot of people, they're like, great, two Star Wars dishes, a Star Wars burrito and a Star Wars taco. I don't care. Thanks. Great. I'll eat them both. But I sometimes am like, I want to have time to really process them. So I was feeling kind of grumpy about it. And I did my normal midnight experience ritual, is set up some action figures and took some pictures, and realized that I had just had a Bad Batch action figure delivered. And it's like, hey, you know what? Let's just relax. It is what it is. Embrace it. You're lucky. You get to see 2 Star Wars shows that you love tonight. You don't need sleep. And set out all of my action figures, and characters from The Mandalorian and characters from The Bad Batch got to sit and watch together. So for me, it was a nice little victory of like, no, don't go give in to the grumpy side. Give in to the light side.
Hey, it's sometimes quicker, easier, more seductive, as a wise person once said. And and the Bad Batch of it all, even some of our dedicated listeners have understandably voiced just frustrated. Gosh, the Bad Batch is sometimes, it seems second tier, and maybe business wise it comes off that way. And it's just a harsh reality, but both shows definitely in our hearts, in my hearts. And I did not watch all 3 episodes of Star Wars television at midnight or until I went to bed. I woke up early, like a Christmas morning, and unwrapped the Bad Batch for myself.
Yeah, I at 11:58, I wasn't sure what I was going to do. I was like, you know what? I think I'm going to do it. And then I watched Mandalorian. And normally when I watch Mandalorian, I make my big picture notes about what I felt like it was about, like immediately. And then I treat myself to go on social media and see what other people thought. And I knew that people would be just, jumping up and down about Casual Zeb. But I was like, I can't go on social media, because some people might have made the choice to watch Bad Batch first. And if there's something very specific and very spoilerific, it will be there. So I was like, I'm just watching Bad Batch, and it was an emotional roller coaster. Then I was able to go on social media and see everybody's reactions to both shows, which was great. We do want to say that we are recording and releasing this Mandalorian Report here on Wednesday, and we are going to wait and record our Bad Batch reaction tomorrow, Thursday. It will be out Thursday. We really want to give it its due. I've watched the episodes, but we take notes. We want to give them time to absorb the ideas and do our best analysis and emotional reaction. So we're gonna, out of respect for Bad Batch, save it until tomorrow.
Yeah, and needed for those episodes. No spoilers, but a lot to process, a lot to work through, and a lot to celebrate. So yeah, that's the plan.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Not any spoilers, but emotional things to process. Yes. So we will save some of that deep emotion for tomorrow, and we will talk our deep Mandalorian emotions now. What was your overall reaction to the episode, The Pirate? Love it, like it, struggle with it, what you expected? Did it surprise you? Where'd you go?
What I expected. Yeah, in a way it did. No, in a way. And the previous on, you have those, we all talk about it either on or off air, like the trailer footage, right? What do we have left to see? And you can't help but kind of put the contextual clues together. And I do that. And I don't think it's a bad thing. It's just, it is. So I think there was some look, there's got to be Gideon. We got to, if he's on the board, we got to put the piece there in some way. We got some threads on course and we got to pick up. Hey, where is Carson? Teva? Teva. Okay. Where is it? Where is he? Because we love him. There he is, and all that kind of stuff. So I felt it hit that, and then going back to Navarro made a lot of sense to me there. So I expect a lot of it, but in the episode landed very well. Meaning, it was flying, and when it landed, I went, "Yay, that was great!" I had some stuff. There were some uneven moments for me, some awkward, I don't know, beats, placements of scenes, some of that kind of stuff. I can get into the reviewer headspace on. But like most Star Wars, especially now, I can absolutely push past a lot of that to not just find what I love, which is certainly something we want to do around here. But this episode had some stuff that just grabbed me by the collars and screamed, "Look at me!" And I did, and I enjoyed a lot of it there.
Yeah, there's a lot of collar grabbing, and I really enjoyed it.
Mm-hmm.
This episode, in some ways, was what I was expecting. We've talked about for weeks. That first chapter where you get Gorian Shard clearly being angered at Navarro and wanting to drag it back into the past, and then you combine that with having trailer footage of Mando's dropping in, and the great relationship between Din and Grief, that they have a favor coupon that they pass back and forth to one another in a beautiful way. It's just, I think, thematically important and resonant to this episode. But you can figure maybe it'll be a surprise. Maybe the Mandalorians are like, you know what, we're taking Navarro. But it seemed like, Gorian Shard's going to invade and Grief's going to get help from Din. So there's a part of it that you could look at it as I think a lot of people felt that thrust of it coming. But all the other details, all the other nuances, all the other forward movement made it really thrilling and exciting to me.
Yeah. No, it had some great action. I loved how a lot of it just looked. We'll talk about that. So exciting stuff. And then jumping in a bit at the end there, but once Paz Vizsla said, "The armor wants to see you," I just was like, "Oh yeah, I've been waiting for this. I've been waiting for something."
Been waiting for more armor in Bo-Katan alone time, and I think even more is probably coming down the line.
I think so.
Yeah, I thought this episode was really great because I do love the big action that is part of it. I thought there was big forward movement in the plot, big threads coming together. I love Carson Teva or Teva. I don't care how it's pronounced. I love him. Yeah. I know you do too. I know you have been on you have had a bumper sticker tattooed to your soul of listen to Carson Teva. And this episode was so great because of the way that I thought it might be a direct Grief asks Din for help. But the way that Carson, his perspective, the New Republic, everyone we've already met, the way that was woven in gave it such power. When Carson Teva says, I don't think this is an isolated episode. It makes perfect sense in the context of the story of the New Republic, this new era. But also, I feel like he could have almost looked directly in the camera and said, I don't think this is an isolated episode, as in episodes aren't filler. Obviously, opinions are opinions. If people feel like episodes are filler, that's fine and can be a point of discussion. But for me, this episode really was the Carson Teva turning to the camera and going, it's not filler. So many elements that we've seen throughout the whole Mandoverse, but in particular this season, which some people I think have felt is disjointed, absolutely came together. I think the without Moff Gideon even appearing on screen, the picture of him as the big bad of season 3 is coming into focus of his puppet string plot, right? He's got I could be wrong about any of this, but this is the way I'm interpreting it. He's got, Elia Kane set up in infiltrating and corrupting the New Republic, stealing cloning equipment for something, possibly, if Carson Teva's suspicions are correct, sent Gorian Shard to attack Navarro. I personally think he bombed Bo-Katan's home. And with the big revelation of he appears to have been escaped, rescued, and there's a shard of Beskar. That's such a great cliffhanger because it leaves open all of these Gideon possibilities. Is he in league with some Mandalorians, or is that old pillaged Beskar from the Purge that he put there to pull Mandalorians apart? Is that Mandalorians who are breaking away and saying, bleep the New Republic, he needs to die? There's so many interesting ways that could go. That just kind of the big picture. Who is the big bad? What are the Mandalorians trying to accomplish? How might Gideon oppose them? To me, that's all becoming much clearer.
Yeah, absolutely. We want to talk about pieces on the board. I think they're all there. They've been there, but episode 5, chapter 5 of the season, 21 overall. Yeah, this is what I would want. And I think I have a lot of theories and thoughts too, which is what I loved about this episode. I think that's fun every now and then, just to really ask some questions. What do you think happened? So I can't wait to get to that there. Yeah, and this episode really put a lot of stuff, the big stuff into focus, like you said.
Yeah, and I think we've talked a lot about the show's called The Mandalorian. We start with a small story on Din. I think Din is still central, but it's also about the Mandalorians, at this point in time, at this era. I think it is about this era. It is about this big idea of change, which was so prevalent in this episode of what does it mean to be a Mandalorian? Can you move into the light? Can the New Republic find its feet? So it felt like, I can get behind people feeling like, Din's not as motivated. Din isn't moving the story as much, but I still think that he's very present. It was a huge step up for Din to be making that sort of leadership speech, that sort of philosophical speech. He's led a lot by action, right? I'll be the one who goes and does this. I'm going to step up and do this. But seeing him make like a leadership speech, a pitch of that, it wasn't just a, hey, can you guys help out my buddy? That's kind of the creed, right? He is suggesting a massive change, right? He is suggesting, actually, let's go live on Navarro. That's more than just a, hey, I got some ass kicking to do. Who wants to go ass kick with me? Because it's the way. So I wanted to put that in the kind of, we'll talk more about it, but I wanted to put that in the kind of the overall reaction, because that was a big thing to me of, I think Din is still very present, very central. That was a massive step forward for him to see him making a leadership speech about a massive change to the way Mandalorians exist in the galaxy.
No, I actually really like that that about the Din moment. It's because that definitely connects to what we're going to talk about, the big theme. But it's truly a speech of change, right? He's stumping for some change in a big way, and how it was no longer, to me. We've seen a lot of transactional relationships, and I think there's some the benefit of it, especially with Paz's speech we'll talk about. but yeah, it moved a lot of that forward. And I get, you and I think, full disclosure, we have a Q&A question episode coming out Friday where we ask kind of directly about what is going on in season 3. And as we'll say in that episode, and we'll say here, we had to record that before this. That might come up here today again, but I get the, hey, Din is it's a different Din. It's a different focus. It absolutely is. But I still think it's, he's a key factor in that, including, as you and I will discuss on Friday, his stasis. Absolutely.
Yeah. So for our questions of the Force, if that's something that you don't always check out, coming out on Friday, like Ken said, we had to pre-record it. We got a great question about what is the plot of season 3 of The Mandalorian? What is the focus? We dove into that, and we also got some questions about the dark side of the Children of the Watch, and I know a lot of people are discussing that and wrestling with that. So we went pretty detailed about what's in the text for morally questionable actions of Children of the Watch, and it was great to see this episode where there's a little bit of a possible change in the armor. We'll discuss, but if you're interested in continuing to discuss some of those ideas, check out that Cues of the Force episode. Final overall thought for me, Ken, is a question for you. This was a Grogu light episode. Grogu was present. The idea of him, I love that Bos just straightforward said, we did all this for this little guy. And Grogu got to coo and babble a little bit, look sad in the darkness of a cave, but not a ton of Grogu. How did you feel about that?
I'm okay with it. I really am okay. It is, look, in our house, we still call this the Baby Yoda show. So, I want to see my fair share of Baby Yoda, but I think all the things happening around him are absolutely going to affect him because he's still very much in the middle of it there, right? And this is a show is asking about the best way to be a Mandalorian, among many other things. And so even when he's just standing there or cooing, as I think it says at one point on the subtitles, Grogu coos, Grogu cooing, he's still very much part of it there. But hey, we had a lot of Grogu last week, so you can go back and watch that too if you need Grogu.
Yeah. So I enjoyed that it was a Grogu light episode because I absolutely adore Grogu, but I love anybody who chooses to call it the Baby Yoda show. But it is at this point a growing ensemble, and sometimes Grogu's gonna do a backflip and take a back seat. And I love that the idea of him and his relationship with Din was motivating a ton of what was going on, and what is best for him was motivating what was going on. But he didn't have to try to eat 3 things he shouldn't this episode.
Right. Yeah.
All right, so let's get into the big themes, the ideas that are at stake in this episode. I'm sure we're thinking about similar things, but it's always fun to see how you package them, Ken, how you phrase them. So for you, what was one of the big ideas of this episode?
Yeah, package it like a school lunch. You got your tray, you got your sausage, your pancakes. It's breakfast day. It's school lunch day. Oh, that was the best. Hey, we keep saying it, but this is truly about what is the best way forward. And I think the overall theme of, hey, can we restore Mandalore? Can we rebuild? Can we unite? I think it's been present from the beginning, text and subtext. And I think this episode you literally had that question being asked and some people maybe think being answered. But that also flows to me into, a lot more with the New Republic. And I think that's been part of what's going on this season and the discussion about this season. What are they saying about the New Republic? I'm very aware that this is setting up possible stuff that Leia has to deal with later. Anything I said before has not failed to factor that in. I just sometimes, I'm waiting for the full picture on what's going on in the New Republic. Basically, what I'm saying is, I love Tim Meadows, but could someone tell Leia Mon Mothma that they need to maybe have a sit down with this guy? Can maybe someone sit down? I'm defensive of Mothma and Leia's New Republic at this point. I'll have to own that. But how do we rebuild Mandalore? You've talked about grief has changed. The pirates still representing the past. There's a lot about the best way to go forward. And it, for me, what you said with the Din stuff is the covert makes this choice to help. But there's questions in that for me. They have a potential to build this home. But then the idea of retake Mandalore, whether that's literal or figurative, you could go both ways with it. You could follow that out, see where it goes. I don't know if they're just going to sit on Navarro and open up a storefront, but maybe. But they have that choice in front of them. And so absolutely this episode saw some of them, Paz being a leader of that, along with Din and Bo-Katan, breaking a bit of their taught rigidity, the rigidity that they've been taught, and the armor is at the center of that. And is she losing control or changing herself? I don't trust her. We're going to talk about that in more detail, but that flows into the theme of, hey, what is the best way forward? And sometimes you do have to come together and find together the best way forward. That's great on paper. It doesn't always work in life, and not in Star Wars either. So that's where I'm looking at the big focus.
Yeah, no, I really like that. And I agree with you. They have been taught a rigidity that by its nature is taught. T-A-U-T, taught.
That's where my word computer was coming in, as I started saying.
I've been taught rigidity.
Yeah.
Yeah, and is it bending? Is it breaking? Is it evolving? Is it becoming flowing and organic? I think Star Wars has a lot to say about the rigid versus the flowing and organic. I think also Star Wars has always a lot to say about stronger together, right? And that has been, to me, a theme of The Mandalorian. He is with his covert. He is sort of pushed out of his covert because he's on the run with Grogu. Then the covert is gone, and he's going out into the galaxy and making more connections and building more bonds himself and growing and changing from that. In this episode, it was some of his leadership to be like, hey, maybe we can change. But this idea of specifically changing by unity, by working together, stronger together, I felt like was all over this episode in particular. We're reminded throughout the episode that Din has drawn strength from connection. It is, this whole episode is a, hey, remember that episode where this character helped that character or gave this character a break? Everything that is happening in this episode, everything that is happening in the plot is predicated on people having been there for one another. Din has drawn strength from his connection to Grogu, to Bo-Katan, to Peli, to Greef. But in this episode, it's these various chains of honor in helping. Carson to Din to Paz, Bo-Katan to Paz, Din and Greef to one another. It's explicit in some of the dialogue, right? I love when Din says to Bo-Katan, this man cut me a break once and now I'm returning the favor,
Yeah.
Or Carson, is saying that about, anyway, and Din is saying he's right. I got to help that guy about Greef. Bo-Katan responds, you can't do it alone. Paz's line, I have had many disagreements with this man. And we're like, asterisk, we've seen a couple literal fights. But he risked his life to save my son. And Bo-Katan Kryze did not give up on my child's life, even when the rest of us did. Speaking to that need to change and evolve. But also this entire, we sometimes joke that the way The Mandalorian is written reminds me of comic books I read as a kid. And you pick up one issue of X-Men and Stan Lee would have asterisks everywhere. Like, hey, check out Amazing Spider-Man, 258 if you want to know about that one. And this one was full of Stan Lee asterisks in a great way to build this picture of unity and returning a favor and being there for one another. And I think that really continued into the action itself, right? The defeat of the pirates is unity. It's the Mandalorians working together. It's the town folk pitching in. Even the monkey lizards pitch in instead of sitting there and laughing. The great moment where the monkey lizard warns a Mandalorian about an ambush. Bo-Katan's line to them saying, you will operate as a tight military unit. Even sort of the way they're doing it of like, this isn't go in and be the biggest, be the strongest. This is work together. So that idea of unity was there in the big action scenes as well. And everyone is benefiting from these ideas of unity.
I think it's great to point it out that it exists even in those action scenes. That's just a basic of writing. You learn even in the fistfights who they are. And God, they were really clear. Not just because they got good tactics, but what they were doing and how and the why of it. Not leaving friends behind is so clear in this episode. And I love seeing that at play. I love seeing that how that's from Carson's perspective, right? I had this weird reaction to seeing here he is in the New Republic, 5 years in or so, right? I know a couple years or whatever, give or take. He's sitting there talking to New Republic people, going, "There's pockets out there of stuff happening. And that could be affecting people, even if they don't agree with us we can't leave them behind. And Navarro being an independent planet doesn't mean everyone disagrees with the New Republic. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But take that to 5 years into the Empire. Take that to 10 years into the Empire. There's pockets of fomenting, sir. We got to go put it out. And we got to not do it for the people. We got to do it for the resources. We got to snuff out those fires. And just to see those two outside but it being driven, Carson Tevin knowing that it needs to be driven by, we can't leave anyone behind. We can't leave friends behind. We must stay connected. So even in the action, even in the debates, it's all there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that was such a great payoff to spending a longer time with the New Republic and seeing the challenge of the New Republic, seeing the mixture of good and noble intentions. Let's not just execute everyone who is an Imperial. Let's give them a path forward. Maybe that path forward is not what we want it to be because it is a little rigid. Maybe there have been too many compromises. This picture to me of the New Republic that is trying to do right, but is truly struggling with the size of the job. Maybe some of the flaws are philosophical, but some of the flaws in this episode seem to really be pointed out to be the scale of the problem, right?
Yeah.
We're told like, hey, we're having problems with the pirates in the mid-rim world, which to me suggests like, yeah, that Leia and Mon Mothma aren't off, partying,
Yeah.
They're probably trying to stop, some civil war from breaking out among core worlds, or a bigger threat in mid-rim worlds, or any number of big challenges, right? I love that this episode goes out of its way to show that the New Republic's bureaucracy is at risk of punishing planets for not showing unity, right? Casual Zeb says about the New Republic, they haven't returned a dispatch in weeks. They're swamped. You'll never get an answer in time. And, good old grumbly Zeb, I think being honest, they're swamped. It's not that they don't care. It's not that they disagree with this philosophically. They're answering 1,000 of these calls and they can't get to this one. Yeah. Even Lieutenant Tuttle Tim Meadows. Yeah. We have a backlog request from member worlds that have priority. And to me, it's really easy to get upset with that. But that isn't and I'm just speaking of personal opinion, that isn't flawed philosophy. That isn't him saying they don't deserve help. This isn't a problem. It's that reality of there are 1,000 problems and we only have the resources to address 5 of them. Yeah, it's awful. What are we going to do? There's great stuff, I think, in books set in the Rebellion era, but also set in the New Republic era, where Leia is constantly wrestling with this kind of stuff, where Padme is wrestling with this kind of stuff of we need to find a way because we have to be there for people, but we don't have all the resources, Yeah. And I think where that becomes really an interesting story about the New Republic, that's interesting by itself is the philosophy correct, but the resources aren't there. And maybe there's a flaw in the way the bureaucracy was set up. But in this scene, what we see is Kane's manipulation elevates the situation from unfortunate bureaucracy and lack of resources to malicious, to the opposing viewpoint of Din's unity. It's Kane who gives Tuttle the more vicious out of Kane saying, perhaps the leaders of Navarro need to understand why becoming a Republic signatory is valuable. Yeah. And offering in this very cruel, seductive way to change that New Republic perspective from, it's unfortunate we don't have the resources to, sign up or too bad. That's really interesting to me, way of showing the New Republic has good intentions, limited resources, but what other philosophies creep in where they make bad choices? And Kane is literally, I believe, an agent of Moff Gideon there to poison the well.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's a great breakdown of that scene there. It also makes you think of, if you got that kind of tweaking of the philosophy, right? And the other side, you got Gory and Shard, like you said earlier, right? They can't even protect the mid rim. They're weak, they're ineffectual. That might cause someone like Grief Karga to be like, yeah, you're right. You're right. And cut off any hope of help for the New Republic and all that kind of stuff. It really twists the philosophy stuff that you're talking about, so that you might vilify the New Republic too early in the game. Again, we have the benefit of knowing Star Wars story enough now that some of it goes a little sour or some of it remains sour, and that's very realistic to me. Very realistic to me. But yes, something could be teetered and tottered and pushed over real easily with some of that thought.
Yeah. In it, when we're talking about the New Republic, we're talking about people, right? And we got a Tuttle who's like, it's not. This one doesn't have a blue stamp on it, so I'll try just bureaucracy, and then slipping into like, yeah, well, maybe you got to prioritize member worlds. Maybe that's getting a little nasty, but you got a Carson Teva who's like, they need help. Maybe he could just say, hey, Zeb. Hey, Moncala pilot, stop drinking. We're going.
Maybe weird guy in a cowboy hat. Let's get in the action.
Hey, directors of The Mandalorian, let's make a difference. But he finds a way, right? He puts the spirit of it forward and finds an organic, non-rigid way to make help. And he does it by also preserving and being aware of unity of like, hey, Dan, I know you enough to know you're going to go help your friend. I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you your friend's in danger. Yeah. So I think great point, counterpoint to unity. And I really want to dive into what's going on with the armor, because I think you and I are on similar pages.
Yeah.
What's a massive shift possibly is that the armor seems to see the strength and value of unity. Bo-Katan has expressed it explicitly of saying, even when she's, having a hard time, depressed, they're walking down to the mines of Mandalore, which she thinks is just some water, nothing important. She's saying, we got stomped by the Empire because my sister was right. We've been fighting amongst ourselves for too long. If we weren't fighting amongst ourselves, we would have been strong enough. Which I think is the question of the rest of the season, is when Moff Gideon comes for them in whatever way he does, or Thrawn, if you're in that camp, when whoever comes for the Mandalorians, are they going to stay together? Or are they going to fracture? And I think a lot of us have been waiting for that perspective of Bo-Katan's of like, we all have to come together to butt helmets with the armor, to see the armor say, all right, the creed says loyalty and solidarity is the way. But it also says you have to follow every other rule of the way. I'm going to elevate that part of the creed that says loyalty and solidarity. I'm going to elevate that part of the creed and bend a little on the helmet thing. I'm going to make up a new binary where there are two paths, and it's still very, I think, authoritarian to say, I'm going to bestow upon you the gift that you can take your helmet off. Even using her station of like, do you respect me? Then do what I told you to do and break my own rule. But it really is this idea of unity that seems to be animating the armor, right? That great Forge speech where she compares the opulent one on Mandalore of old in this, sad sewer forge and says, yet they were both forges. They say they served the same purpose. There's a lot in this that can be really fist bumping of the armor is going to bend a little bit, evolve a little bit, change a little bit in order to bring all Mandalorians together. But I also think that there are still some dark chords and some questions with that as well. So I want to start there. I want to get your thoughts on what's maybe positive about the armor's move toward unity, and what are the dark chords for you?
There's more dark chords playing in this little song than positive ones for me, which I love. I said I was waiting for this moment here, and Bo-Katan to me the last couple episodes has been she's very active. She's making choices. Let me be clear about that. But in those quiet moments, there's so much going on, right? There's so much going on. And sometimes I know she the character is going through a lot of things. I want her to take that big giant step forward, right? So not frustrated with the show. I'm frustrated. Like you're sitting back a lot, right? But you would be, because you just saw the Mythosaur. You're not sure what the bleep is going on. and you're not sure, and you have a lot of failures. We talked off. I think it's just a little of that energy of Luke on Octo of like, I'm going to break the cycle by doing nothing, and she leg up on the throne, and she's emerged from that to this, and it's a confusing moment to think maybe she's getting what she might have wanted from the armor at one point. Maybe when she first met Den. We must walk the way together. Great. Well, you and I have said that this show seems to be asking, the season seems to be asking, well, what is the way? And I'm excited by some of the stuff the armor says, but man, it's not enough for a few to walk it, right? What does that mean? Are we forging a new way? Because it doesn't sound like it. You can take off your helmet because I said so. And the music's a little ominous before. Every look Emily Swallow is playing, even with that mask on, even in that the rescue on Navarro. I'm wondering, again, this isn't something that I think the show is saying in this particular episode. I'm just wondering, is she looking around going, I'm losing them. So how do I get them back? Let me give them all a little, the tide is turning. Paz now says we go help. She's around. She's saving kids. My way got them killed. She's saving. What do I do with that? How do I manipulate that? How do I give the appearance of change, but really I'm still in control? I'm not saying that's where this all ends up. Maybe next week she pulls off her helmet. She's like, this is great. Let's have a new way party. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just fascinated by it. And I want more of them sitting there figuring this out. Because I wanted this scene, but it's not yet to its final form for me, where I want Bo to be like, what's your problem with me? Who are you? Are you Rookcast? Do you know Rookcast? Who are you? Did I know you before? And because this still doesn't seem right in it when you break it down, but it definitely seems right overall. Which also, by the way, you could watch this, especially last 2 weeks. You can watch it and maybe find yourself cheering for the children of Watch when maybe you don't want to, maybe you don't think you should, maybe you don't think we should, and I don't think the show's saying cheer with both hands and don't look behind you. There's something going on with this. And it has a lot to do with, all right, let's find this way together. But what is your view on that?
Yeah, no, I love what you're saying. And I really agree with you. There are parts of it. There's like, this is thrilling to see the armor acknowledge, they're both forges. We're all Mandalorians. We all need to find a way to be together. Right. So there is something fist pumping about it. There's something fist pumping in last week's episode about, the highest part of the creed is rescuing a foundling. We really got into this on that Questions of the Force episode, where we talked about some of the great things that it would seem like maybe the majority of our general cultural morality would go, hey, rescuing kids, working together, thumbs up. Thumbs up. But then really trying to break down a lot of what the armor has done or said, up and to and including, we still don't know quite the connection between the Children of the Watch and the Death Watch. And if you go watch those Clone Wars episodes, they are murderers and liars who believe might makes right and will terrorize even other Mandalorians innocently to get power, because power is what matters. Pre Vizsla, that leads him to be headless. So there's still that question. So there's so much going on with the armor where it's this wonderful tension where I want to believe that she can be shifting a little bit. But so much of what we've seen about her and what we tried to discuss in that Cues of the Force episode is there's so much authoritarian rigidity, right? There's the I will raise you and protect you, but I won't tell you that there are other perspectives. You can leave anytime you want. You can question our way, but I won't tell you that there's another way when you're a child. You can be forgiven, but only in this rigid, conditional way. So there's plenty that's piled up that's made me go, I want, when she says you have walked both worlds, you are the one who can unite us. I want to believe her. But there is so much that is still authoritarian, right? I was really taken by the scene where like, oh, this is the ritual. You can question things. You can ask for the talking hammer. Yeah. And say your piece. But there's still that subtle note of once Din and Paz speak and everyone agrees, it's like she stamps it at the end when she says this is the way. Still the final voice, right? Even after everybody else said in chorus, this is the way, she still said this is the way in the final way. When she is trying to be open, when she appears to be open and flexible, the way she says it to Bo-Katan of "Do you respect my station?" and that absolutely phenomenal delivery from Emily Swallow the second time, she's like, "Take the helmet off."
Mm-hmm.
That's the voice of somebody who isn't questioned.
Mm-hmm.
So there's this tension to me of, what does that line that you called out mean? Our people have strayed from the way, and it is not enough for a few to walk it. We must walk it together.
Mm-hmm.
That might mean these are the common beliefs among Mandalorians. This is what we all can agree on. And if there are a couple things different, great. But we know from last week's episode, they got the creed's long. Maybe not the one you say when you take a bath, but they got it down to subsection 47 FB of how you eat at the campfire based on your role at there's a lot to the old ways. And is the armor saying it's enough that we have this general, we agree about foundlings, we agree about honor, we agree about helping one another, we agree about preserving strength, preserving our culture, Beskar is sacred. Is that all enough? Or is it, hey, once you bring them all to me, I will put them under the hammer and they will walk the way, my way, the only way, once I get them all here?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, I just having fun speculating of, who else will show up, you know, and how you're going to get them.
Just picturing Boba Fett going like, why am I here?
Why am I here? Or Cosca Reeves be like, I'm not putting my helmet on. Why? Because I had this thought. Again, this is beyond just analyzing the show, but it's like this thought of like, all right, I thought maybe Paz Vizsla would take his helmet off. Right there, you have Tate Fletcher playing the role and voicing the role now. A lot of people have been talking. All right, maybe that means mask off at some point. That makes sense for me. I think you'll see Emily Swallow's face at some point too. But what happens in that moment? Paz goes, "Oh, great! I've been trying to breathe." Whew. What does the armorer do then? Does she let it go? She try. What is she trying to keep all the apples in the bushel in the basket? One's out, the other's going to jump, and is she okay with that? I don't know that answer right now, which is why I love that scene so much.
Yeah, she has invented a framework where for her to reach the goals that she currently believes in, it is okay for Bo-Katan to take her helmet off, right?
Yeah.
There's still, I think Din is probably attached to the belief right now and is still in the mindset of this is the way I should keep my helmet on, right? But what happens the next time Grogu needs to see his face, needs to touch his cheek, and he's still looking to the armor for permission, right? Is he going to make daily bathing trips? Is that how they're going to work it out? Yeah, Tuesday I take it off. Wednesday I take a bath. I don't think that's the spirit of the thing.
The armor is in cahoots with the big bath industry, trying to stoke up bath bomb sales every day. But because this is huge. This is a huge development, and I don't believe the armor for most of it.
I think that she believes in bringing as many Mandalorians together as possible. I think she believes in retaking Mandalore, but I think there are so many questions after that. She's invented a very binary way that there can be together. There are two ways now to walk. Boba Fett's guy at least has got a third. And these are the two that are now sanctioned by her. There's the lingering question of the Dark Saber of great. The armorer is still in control because she appointed Bo-Katan to be in control for now, for this mission. But that Dark Saber, she's not letting the tradition of that go. For a second there, I thought she was going to be like, Bo-Katan must join us together. Take the Dark Saber from Din. Is that coming at some point? There is, to me, this huge lingering question about the Children of the Watch, their connection to Death Watch, what the entirety of the creed is. Because we've seen a version of the Children of the Watch who are just trying to survive. But the idea of them just living all helmeted, all weapons are a religion, next to, some space Renfair buskers, at what point does the armor have a belief that it's not enough that you, High Magistrate, are letting us live here? Might makes right. Mandalorians must fight. We must prove ourselves. This city, this whole planet is ours. At what point for the armorer is that philosophy that the Death Watch believed gonna come back?
This is why I'm waiting. I've said it before. I'm waiting for Bo-Katan or someone to say the actual names we know.
Yes.
Yeah. Fenra, Rookcast, all those names, and some of those still have factor in the show. I know. I've heard some of the rumors too, friends, but I'm waiting for that. Let's get down to it. The nitty gritty of how it happened.
And it could also be that the armor is somebody who is a picture of belief, and sometimes those beliefs lead her to be rigid and violent. And if Bo-Katan really does burst out of the core of Mandalore riding a Mythosaur, is the armor, have such belief that she just falls to her knees? And yeah, of course, Bo-Katan's leader. She's riding a Mythosaur. She seemed really emotionally affected by. I was taught it was a legend. But you're telling me it's real. Like, I don't really feel like it was Din's great, let's all work together. I don't feel like it was Grief's, thanking and honoring them and giving them land for free that was moving the armor. It was the power of the Mythosaur, the power of Din and Bo-Katan's leadership. The what you were saying, that the rest of her followers are like, hey, this living in the light thing sounds pretty good. Maybe we should do that. And she's like, okay, how do I stay on top of this?
Yeah. No, I 100% agree with you. I'd even say there's maybe perhaps a lot of fear in her, right? Exactly that she's been shattered. Her belief system might have been a little shattered, a little cracked at least. But you're telling me it's real. Going back to the moment when Bo-Katan even tells her, right?
She can't even process it. That apparently, if this is that's kind of what I inferred now from this episode about last episode of like, that is so mind blowing to me. I have nothing to say at the moment.
Yes, yeah, and here she is trying to form what to say, and at some point it's almost just plot speculation for me. But of just like, first of all, I love your image. I think I'd put some money down on, much like it was, hey, Boba Fett's going to ride a Rancor, or Bo-Katan on a Mythosaur with the Dark Saber held aloft. I could very well see that happening. We could very well see that happening. But I'm just intrigued by what the armor is doing and not saying in this stuff.
Yeah, that image of her on the balcony in Grief, it was brief and it wasn't overplayed, but it was, she had to live in the sewers there, and it was tactical that she went up there and took out that gun. But then she's up there on the top, and there's just that image to me of like, is it in her creed that she lets foolish, pompous Grief Karga keep that, or by right should it be hers?
Right.
Yeah.
Do they stop at the borders that he's giving them? The Bullock Canyon.
Yeah. And this is all speculation. I'm not saying this is the way it is or this is the way it's going to be. What's enjoying to me about it is we don't know. And those connections between Death Watch and Children of the Watch gotta be explored at some point, I think, to understand what does the creed say once they're not just trying to survive, And I guess for me, that was one of the other big picture ideas that you brought up. One of the other ways I broke down some of the ideas in scenes in this episode is that ongoing question of what does it mean to be a Mandalorian? Are you good with diving into that?
Yeah, let's take a dive into the waters of Mandalore.
Yeah, so we've talked a lot throughout the show. Last couple episodes, I've been really focused on how much of the show is in that first interaction between Din in Grogu. That question of what does a Mandalorian mean? What is a Mandalorian? For Din, their salvation, not death. Grogu looks up. He needs to see salvation. That's what a Mandalorian is. Lots of things Din has said since then about like, this is why I believe in the creed, because it's about keeping us safe and keeping us together and protecting the young. So there's that question that's been on the table since the beginning of what does it mean to be a Mandalorian? And we've heard, now lots of parts of the creed of the Children of the Watch of what is the way. But now this episode is really pushing on what are different definitions of Mandalorian, and change be a part of the way. Is that way down at the bottom of the creed of like, and sometimes the way can change. Are there amendments allowed to the creed? And I think some classic fist pumping Mandalorian stuff is on display in this episode. Just the idea of honor, right? That it is good and right for a Mandalorian to help someone who has helped them.
Right.
You know, Karga's your friend. You won't let him die. You know, Pause Vizsla's lines of, I have had many disagreements with this man, but he risked his life to save my son. And Bo-Katan, Kreese did not give up on my child's life, even when the rest of us did. It's so about honor, right? And that's what gets everybody. It's one of the things that gets everybody fist pumping. And I feel like, so there's a great big idea of honor throughout it, which is attached to the unity, but it's also attached to the Mandalorian identity. And one of the other big things to me that Paz says, and Bo-Katan both say, is they take this view of a Mandalorian as salvation and take it a little bit farther, right? Paz's surprise stump speech, right? Of the question we should be asking ourselves is why? Why should we lay our lives down yet again? Because we are Mandalorians. It's this idea of our power, our strength, our weapons, our fearsomeness is in the service of helping those who have helped us. And Bo-Katan puts an even finer point on it, where she says, you lived there once hiding in the sewers, but now you can be heroes. We haven't ever had that word kind of attached to Mandalorians of like, here's a vision of what Mandalorians they can be. They can be heroes. They can be the one like that. The people on Navarro want the X-Wings to show up and everybody cheers because they're a symbol of hope and freedom. Right. Can the Mandalorians be that? Is that how we can express our strength? Or is our strength only being like when a Mandalorian shows up, everybody knows they should be terrified. They should start paying tribute and run. That's a vision of Mandalorian strength is death. Here, a vision of Mandalorian strength is salvation is being pitched explicitly by Bo-Katan and I think also by Paz.
Yeah, the commitment to honor is clearly big with them, right? That's what we do, right? Norm sits at the end of the bar on a chair. That's what he does. This is what they do. They commit to this honor, and I love it. Your idea of death and salvation, right? That's on the poster, and I think that's absolutely. And you're tying it back to the initial meeting with Grogu, right? The Din's being saved, and I love that, and that's at play very much here. What are we going to be? What are we? We are cool. Look at even the view of them in the fandom, right? Historically and generally speaking. Mando Mercs walk into the convention floor. They got the armor. They got the weapons. And they look pretty badass. You know, part of me has always been jealous that I can't look that cool. I get it. Why are you doing that? Why are you walking around with that? And that's always been at stake in the Mandalorian people as it's played out now here in canon, which pulls obviously from a lot of legend stuff now. That's clear as we analyze it. And so that's central to the question. And what do you want to be? How do you want to approach that? How do you want to be received? I think that's in Bo's heart. And if she can just convince everyone else, but I think that's central to what's going on. Death versus salvation.
Yeah. And I think for Bo's journey and why she has struggled so much, right, is that she has been a part of the Death Watch way of Mandalorians are, you should fear us and you should bow down and might makes right, and strength is that's what strength means. But then she realized the folly of those ways, tried to lead in a different way, tried to lead in the way that her sister did, where there's a different kind of strength. So to see that kind of hope return to Bo-Katan of like, maybe this group can be what I want Mandalorians to be, heroes, you know? It was really, really powerful for Bo-Katan. I think it makes me even more frightened that the armor is going to pull the rug out from under her, because I think Bo-Katan is getting what she wants and what she needs.
Yeah, it goes. This is again going back to why I sometimes just want the names being mentioned, only just fully just dive into it on the show. Yeah, go to Clone Wars and stuff, right? That's even what the Death Watch was trying to sell. That we are your salvation, but really we're death, right? It was a lie. It was all manipulation, all these attacks, all these things, and we'll save you. Satine can't save you. She is someone who wants to change our traditional values, and here we are. We got your back. Power is our strength, and so to emerge from that and lose her sister in that, to lose her people, her culture, her own place in all of that, not just in terms of power, but her identity. Yeah, I think you're right. I think Bo's Bo-Katan's got this like, this feels right. And we can do this. And I don't think that's going to go smooth, which I kind of like for right now for the show.
Yeah. No, I really agree. I think that's going to be the heart of the conflict, because the other question of what is a Mandalorian that was really raised to me in this episode is this view of living in the light, playing in the sun, right?
Mm-hmm.
When Carson first comes there, there's the tension of this is the way the covert hides. Is if anybody finds out where the covert is, we run. And in some ways, that's very the armor presented that as that this is the way because that is what is going to keep us alive and safe. But then there's that like, but how do you hold that with being like we are so strong and mighty, right? And to see the contrast where, Din comes out there spitting the way to Carson of Mandalorians pride ourselves on our secrecy. And he turns around and he gives his rousing talk and hammer speech where he says, perhaps it is time for us to live in the light again on a planet where we are welcome so our culture may flourish and our children can feel what it is to play in the sunlight. Direct ties to Chapter 4 of The Mandalorian, of Sanctuary, of watching Grogu just play, just be a kid, Yeah. Still got to, learn to use the darts, probably take the creed when he can speak and all that. But this idea that how much of what we are has become hidden, frightened. Can we go out and can we just enjoy peace in prosperity, right? The contrast between the armor briefly looking out from the high peak of the office to visiting that lowly forge hidden in the sewer. Like the point she's making is it's all still Mandalorian to Bo-Katan, but to me that image was powerful too. And I felt it in Grief's, wonderful speech of like, take this land for free. You're awesome. Let's be neighbors. They're all honorable about it. But like, is there not one of them going, yeah, and then we're going to take what you got? Because that's got to be. So there's this vision that everybody seems to be like, yeah, you know what? Bleep hiding.
Yeah.
We're going to take care of the foundlings emotionally too. We're going to move them away from Dinosaur Death River.
Yeah.
We're going to live in the sun. But the immediate question after that is, can they accept that? Can they accept peace in prosperity? Can they just be friendly neighbors? Or is the Children of the Watch's way, is the armor's way to conquer? Are they still warriors with no one to fight?
Yeah. They're again, a lot of this about when you go forward, you make these choices to change, and how do you keep going forward? How do you keep adapted? Liberator or conqueror? What's your view inside? Even Kane mentioning that, right? I was liberated.
Totally manipulative from her perspective. Yes. A lie,
A lie indeed. I'm having fun. Just waiting. I'm waiting for the armor to explode. not literally, but just like I'm waiting for her to get her bearings and see what she does. You're so right. Are we going to stay at our nice little plot of land? No, it's time to retake Mandalore. Well, that's definitely not. We've got a new farm. Let's move in. Everyone go back to Dinosaur Attack River and let's get our stuff, pack up the bags, and we're going to move over here. It doesn't seem the vibe. Even though retaking Mandalore, rebuilding Mandalore is central to the show and this season's plot. From the armor, that's again goes my thing I said up top. I don't trust her.
Yeah, and some of that is like we keep saying, pulling in what is the connection between Death Watch and Children of the Watch, because Death Watch would not have been happy to just be friendly neighbors with children playing in the sun. Yeah. So last idea for me is, this idea of home has been strong throughout this season in particular of, can Navarro suffice as a home? Can Din provide a home for Grogu? Bo-Katan losing the last home she had. Now this idea of reclaiming Mandalore, home as a place, but also a people. And the ambiguity of it is time to retake Mandalore. They literally physically mean the planet, or they mean rebuild the Mandalorian nation,
Right.
Yeah. Any other big picture thoughts from you?
No. I do want to discuss what a pirate is. I guess is the key to the episode. But no, what?
Oh yeah, we normally do analyze the title. The pirate is, I think, pretty straightforward in that there's a big green pirate with dangly face bits. Did you take that title to have larger depth?
I'm trying to find the depth, and sometimes that isn't necessarily the way it goes. Looking at the definition of piracy, pirates, all that kind of stuff. But I also just think this is a chapter that is about what this pirate, Gorian Shard, and his crew cause for other people. Right? In a way, they're at the center of change for a lot of folks. Mm-hmm. So the pirate is the influence throughout it, and that just might be where I go with it. Could be other ways though.
Yeah, I think for me it is explicit, but it also invites these thoughts of the pirates represent the opposite of what our heroes are accomplishing, right? Of unity, defense of home. The pirates are invaders who take what they want because might makes right. They've been set up in the season to be directly opposed to the idea of change. It was a cantina once. We like it as a cantina. It's not a school. It's a cantina. We even get a shot of them belligerently drinking in the cantina / school as they insisted that they should. So I think it also invites Din and Bo-Katan and even Paz seem to be kind of making an argument of let's focus on the part of the creed that's loyalty and solidarity and being heroes, being salvation. But there are parts of the traditional Mandalorian way that are to be the pirate. You come and you take because might makes right. So I think the title does have that tension of, that's what you and I are talking about. The lingering question of, is the armor kind of on board with the pirate too? Or is she more about honor and unity? And can she square that? Yep.
Can she square it indeed there? But yeah, in terms of just straight up, great pirates in pop culture history, Gorian Shard might have made the list. I don't know.
Yeah. I'm happy to talk about our pirate feelings as we get into canon. But let's now take a quick break, and then we are gonna be back to talk casual Zeb, comedy moments, action moments, lots of great stuff. Back in a moment. And we are back. We're talking the big picture ideas of Chapter 21, The Pirate. We are talking about the possible future of what it's going to mean to be a Mandalorian, but we're also going to have some fun with the great Star Wars canon, lore, connections, and comedy and action, all that great stuff. We're going to go first to canon, lore, and what I continue to call casual Zeb, because of the way he just wandered into the back of the shot like an extra. And then, of course, he did have some dialogue. I saw many people on social media go through the exact same thought process that I did of like, it's a Lasat. Could it be Zeb? Oh, that sure sounds like Zeb. Oh, look in the credits. It's Steve Blum. That's Zeb. And the credits say Zeb. Great reveal that he is in the New Republic Fighter Corps. He didn't end up just hanging out with the slot with Hot Callus as we last see him in the Rebels conclusion that Filoni has been explicit about. We don't know exactly when those beats occur. So, it's not like, hey, Endor happened and then all of this montage you see is the next day. Filoni's been clear about that. So maybe he has yet to go visit Lasat Town with with Hot Callus. Right now in the New Republic Fighter Corps, great blue outfit. This I think is exciting people for lots of reasons, including the idea that full Rebels reunion is on the table. So talk me through your emotional reaction, how much it was just seeing Zeb, how much of it was thinking forward to the Ahsoka show. Where'd you go?
I went a lot of spots. I called this sequence 3 Y-Wings walked into a bar, Rebel base here. Y-Wings land, and I loved this reveal. Got me really excited. Poor Grace was on the couch with me going, I don't get it. It's a big monster guy. Why are you excited? And I as quick as I could, Star Wars Rebels. I love that that's what it was, that it was so casual. It was completely casual, that to the point where I think I was 10 seconds in before I was like, all of it connected in my past midnight old man brain. I was like, That's fine. He's speaking in an accent like that. Oh my God, it's Zeb. And I just like that. I like that it's a great purpose in that. And yes, it gets me excited for what could happen in Ahsoka just because I thought it looked really good. And technology's gotten better and better, sometimes in frightening ways. But in terms of, hey, we're going to have Rebels 2.0 in the Ahsoka series, Zeb was kind of a question I think I even had more privately than even on any podcast. I'm just like, how's that going to work? That could be really wonky or it could be good. And I have a lot of confidence now going forward that it'll just feel right. And that seems maybe silly to say, but you know, making that leap from animation to live action is big and it's important. And it can also, you know, people have opinions on it. And I think this one was a home run on a lot of levels. And it just was exciting that it was just that way. It wasn't a door opens and he's there to save so-and-so or save Grogu or all that kind of stuff. I'm not referring to Kelleher Beck, but just in some other plot point. That he was just there. He's part of this cause. He's part of the New Republic.
Yeah, I really loved seeing Zeb on multiple levels like you because he looked good. And I think there was a question of that translation, not only to live action, but the thing that Filoni has spoken about a lot of, like Clone Wars in particular, but Rebels also, they're stylized. So they shouldn't look or even sound one for one, right? Steve Blum did a great job. In animation, in general, you go a little bigger, even serious animation.
Yes.
In both Cad Bane and Zeb have been like this tiny, like we're dialing it down by 5%, you know? But there's all this question of how are they going to translate? Zeb's a wild looking being, right? And is it just going to be like, we're happy to see Zeb, but my child is crying because he's too frightening looking in live action, right? Right. And to see that was not the case at all. He looked great, felt the warm, friendly, great guy. So thrilled to see that he looked good. I was thrilled to see that he's in the New Republic Fighter Corps, right? That that he went through all this. You know, he's separated from his cell. We don't know exactly what went on with all of them during the war. If he was by Hera's side throughout the entire war, we don't know. Maybe he's been in the pilot, since the end of Rebels. But it just made sense for him that he's still there. He's still contributing. He's still believing, in the big picture cause. I was really happy to see that. Filoni had given that interview recently where he was kind of asked about like, hey, you're going to bring in all your animated characters, right? And he said, well, to me, they're just characters. And I think that's the energy that was powerful about Casual Zeb, as I'm jokingly calling him, of like, he's just a character. Not every character needs a reveal. Like Cad Bane's reveal was about being a scary being in the desert. It wasn't necessarily about being surprised Cad Bane in live action. Even Ahsoka's intro is one of the things I was dead wrong about. I really thought they'd give a big fanfare, and she just does pop onto the screen from behind, and it's in darkness, and we build to her face, but it's just like, bam, she's there.
Yeah.
Because it isn't like, pulling the sheet off the new car and going ta-da to the audience. It really is about their characters, and they exist in this world, and so it's casual. And Zeb was like the biggest, Zeb just wandered in because he's a character. We don't need to give him a scene where he pops from animation into live action. He's just there.
Yeah. There wasn't, he doesn't say something and someone goes, who are you? He goes, oh, I'm Zeb. And none of that. And I think that's what I liked about it there. And it's funny too, I'm doing the voice, and Steve Blum, of course, just an amazing performer. I'm not even touching what he does. But I've even said in this podcast before, sometimes I question why a character would have that kind of accent on an animated show or in Star Wars. It sometimes seems a little weird to me. It's a personal thing. Even last week, some of the Mon Calamari stuff, it's like, okay. It doesn't always hit for me. None of that with this version of Zeb for the 2 seconds I spent with him. And I'm just asking myself, why did I have that such positive reaction when I've actually said things against it in the past? I think it's just all to what you're saying. He's just there. And I've lived there for years now,
And I think it is, I'd be happy to be corrected by an interview, but I think it is dialed down just a little bit because,
I think it is. Absolutely.
Especially early Rebels, it was a family-friendly show, and Zeb had serious character stuff out of the gate in season 1, but he also had just plenty of like, "Ooh, you annoying kid," like jokes. He had bits, you know, he had shtick, and he had a big, grumbly, cranky guy voice to go with it, right? And this was a little bit more casual, live action, chatting with awesome drinking buddy Carson Teva.
Yeah, and I'm glad he didn't say like Carabas. Like none of that. He just was. And you know, I know we got Peter Ramsey directing this episode, and he's directing some Ahsoka, so that connection's great too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's exciting to see that. Sabine confirmed in cast. Hera we've seen from the back, confirmed. The rumors, but we don't know who's playing her. And at this point, like Ezra seems obvious. So full Rebels reunion on the table, exciting. I don't know how Zeb was realized, but he really looks like CGI. So in this era where we have been celebrating the return of Ahmed Best, reflecting on the triumph of Jar Jar in terms of a film character that was the first major character to be digital, to be mocap, and to be a digital character. I kind of had a like, hey, thanks, Jar Jar. You know, the path that began in the late 90s is why we have a full Zeb. However they accomplish it, digital, half. Is there a part of him that's a puppet? I don't know. But Jar Jar is a part of the path that has made Zeb possible.
I 100% agree with that. Thank you, Jar Jar and Ahmed and team.
Yeah. So there's a lot of my other canon stuff was the Adelphi base. I was on high alert as soon as we got some Y-wings. Like, we're going to a base. Who could be there? I think I was tempted to pause. Like, is that Wedge talking to the Mongolian?
Yeah.
Right. So I did, notice the director pilots, Deborah Chow, with a character named Sash Ketter, Rick Famuyiwa, Jib Dodger, and of course Dave Filoni, Trapper Wolf, in the hat, in a shot with Zeb.
Yeah, there you go, Dave. Take a bow. That was great.
Yeah. How did you feel about that? Did that work for you?
Oh, well, I'll tell you this. I missed it the first time. I think focused on Zeb. I got to the credits because I want to confirm that it was Zeb, right? And all of a sudden I see Filoni's name, Rick's name, Deborah's name, and I was like, what? Did I? What? And so I had to go back. So my reaction, which seems impossible to say that you missed it, but I just, was focused on the Zeb of it all, not the foreground with Dave in the hat there. But I like it. Look, their characters in the galaxy. Dave's hat's canon. All beautiful.
Yeah. And to me, I like that they are building up who is in the New Republic now, who is might be stationed here, who might know each other. It's all great stuff to me, since we've seen Trapper Wolf flying with Carson Teva before. It makes sense. And everything else in here is just a treat. The Snivian bartender with wig. Yep. Another great one for Misty Roses. It's really great to see a Mon Cala pilot. I wanted to ask you about that. We're both big fans of them, Radis in particular, but we often see them in leadership roles. So it's fun to see a pilot. How did you feel about that?
I love that. Absolutely. They're great warriors indeed, as we've seen in the Clone Wars. And they belong in all ranks of the Rebellion or the New Republic. Maybe not in control of mind flayers, but
that may be a needed question. The captions describe the music playing at the Adelphi base is psychedelic rock music. I
love that.
Did you like the music?
I love that. I love that music. I want a cut of that.
Oh, yeah. I thought it was really well done, because for me, I sometimes struggle with Star Wars music when they don't Star Warsify it enough. It does not happen very often. My rewatch of Rebels, there's an episode where Zeb is rocking out to a radio. Yeah. And his music kind of like this, so I like that. But that music is just like, can you give me a weird space theremin? Yeah. It's not quite alien enough, but this was great. It connected to Zeb's tastes in Rebels. It sounded kind of like music that would be in the Clone Club 79s back on Coruscant, so I really liked it.
I love that a lot.
And then Adelphi itself is new to canon in general. It was mentioned in Chapter 10, The Passenger, by Carson. I was looking on Wikipedia. The system is mentioned also in the great novel Shadow of the Sith. So cool to have a new place. Some other canon here. this isn't really like lore spotting. It just jumped out to me, Ken.
Mhm.
A question about the canon of hologram tech. I really liked Gorian Shard's big, scary face.
Mhm.
I've never really thought about this, but here's what I'm thinking. When you send someone a hologram and they, receive it in that, can you set the size? Can you set your giant face to intimidation size? Is this like Gorian Shard sending Grief an email in all caps?
I absolutely think that's the way to look at it. Or, pinch your fingers on that selfie photo there. It's a little close range there. Yeah, I absolutely think that's what it is. Snoke's got it set to 11, right? And Palpatine knows how to play it. Yeah, I absolutely think so. And I think there could be some limitations on, even if Vader set it for big, Veer's, the AT-AT's got a smaller version. I'm there for that there. I did think about that there. Also, just to see it in such, Star Wars is technically in the past. It's a long time ago, not in our future, but it's Carson to be like, cool, I got a message. Can I borrow your viewer, which is this giant 1978 reel-to-reel size machine? And yeah, cool. Give me a moment. I'll be in the corner where you all can hear my message. I had some fun reactions to that.
Yeah. Is that one of the moments that felt a little awkward to you, or?
No. Some of that had to do just more with, I don't know, pacing in the scenes and some of the little line reads and all that kind of stuff. None of that stuff. No, I like the wild and weird stuff. I'm a big fan of Gorian Shard. I don't know what I'm looking at, but I like it. But no, I just, I'm with you too. I had that thought of just like, well, what's the difference?
Yeah. A lot of things in Star Wars work by the demands of narrative, right? How long it takes to get from place to place. Ships travel at light speed or narrative speed. TIE fighters make noises in space. So a lot of times that we have the massive holograms, it makes narrative sense. But this one really just felt like Gorian Shard was being an a-hole and be like, I'm going to take up your whole office with my face. I want you to see everything that's stuck in between my teeth, Grief Karga. Let's take a moment to just talk about the pirates, because I know that they are not for some people. I think they look silly or kiddie or cartoonish. This really, really leaned into their pirates, but in space. We had the Ugnaught, that was totally pirated out, right? We had that awesome ship has, a wheel, and I'm forgetting the correct nautical term, as the way it's controlled, like it's so leaned into the pirate of it. How do you feel about all that? Are you okay with it, or is it a little too close to that? No. This looks like Star Wars aliens dressing up in Earth Halloween costumes.
I think generally I'm okay with that. I actually really love the design of that ship. I did laugh at the old wheel, the old pirate ship wheel on there. I know I loved the way the ship looked, and we can talk about the action. No, I understand people it doesn't work. If Hondo Anaka and some of the stuff in Clone Wars and Rebels and Beyond didn't exist, I think I'd have more of a problem with it. But the Ugnaught looking like he literally walked out of the Pirates of the Caribbean ride and into it. I would not. If we're at a coffee shop debating this, I'll concede the pointy on this one. I get it. But it works, and pirates are a thing in Star Wars, and they don't know our world doesn't exist in their world. So as far as they know, this is their own unique design. This is what we are, space pirates. We have sashes and very flamboyant pirate-like jackets. So I do in the end like it. I have Vane for some reasons. No disrespect to the actor, he hasn't been my favorite. There's something about it, but you're also acting in a mask, and there's going to be a level of overacting, so to speak. Not his performance being that, but just like you're going to have to move your face in many ways to convey emotions. I think he does a great job at it. It's not necessarily my favorite at times, and that's part of my reaction to this episode. But overall, no, I want a Gorian Shard figure. I want a Lego ship. I want all of it.
It's really funny to imagine Gorian Shard being like as culturally successful as Vader, and like kids are clamoring for those Gorian Shard bed sheets. They want to lay their head down on Gorian Shard.
Yeah.
The Shard sheets. Mom, can we get the Shard sheets?
I don't know what you're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. To me, I love the tension that exists in Star Wars in many ways, but one of them that I like going on about is the profound versus the absurd. The depth of what we're talking about, of how should societies be formed? How much can you bend? What is honor? Like, there are these rich, deep ideas. What do we owe children as a society? Like, deep ideas. And then there's that, like, but also it is fun. And this was inspired by all these other genres. And yeah, they explicitly look like pirates to almost absurdity, maybe just absurdity. But I enjoy that, and it's always been a part of Star Wars. And different people bump against it, and different people accept it. But like, yeah, I remember when I first saw Hondo's crew, and not only are they very piratey, but then they just straight up flying around in a flying saucer, like a land, right? Land in the New Mexico desert and make anal probe jokes, flying saucer, right? Like, there's nothing about it that isn't just a straight up, conspiracy theory flying saucer.
Hondo is a gray alien, indeed. Yeah, no, I'm with you on that. I think if I didn't love Hondo so much, because I didn't love him initially, I really didn't. I remember having a conversation with Jedi Alliance with a friend of mine, a comic, Joey Rockenstein. That's one of his favorite characters. This is like 2014. I just was like, him? To that reaction, I had that reaction to him, and now, no, I just watched some Hondo stuff in Rebels this weekend, and God, I love my crazy Uncle Hondo. So he really broke that barrier for me to be okay with Gory and Shard.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, for me, tying together all of Hondo's arc through Clone Wars and Rebels has made me really, really enjoy him. And the Millennium Falcon ride. Last thing with the pirates, of course, we have to mention in canon that a character in Star Wars, a beast that you've gone on a long journey with, is referenced by Gorian Shard in a puffer pig's eye. Another triumph for fans of Rebels watching this episode. How'd you feel about that?
I loved it. I had the subtitles up the second episode, and I think I'd missed it the first time, and absolutely love that. Absolutely.
Yeah. Great stuff. Also, want to shout out Lieutenant Reed, played by Max Lloyd Jones, continuing all of these New Republic characters, who's featured before. We don't go through and list every background alien, but one that grabbed my eye is there is what looks to be a youngling on Navarro, who is the species Melito, which jumped out to me because that is the weird and infamous character Sarko Plank, which is just this great design, an early action figure for The Force Awakens. Does not show up in any substantive way in The Force Awakens. Also featured in a Journey to Force Awakens book. I love Sarko Plank's look. So I was happy to see a Sarko Plank kid.
A Sarko Plank kid, indeed. Love that.
Yeah. Last bit of canon here is got a little bit more clarity on the covert, because we have been talking in recent episodes about, so where did these other Mandalorians come from? Were they parts of other coverts? And now I thought it was implied by what Paz and Din said that some of them survived the massacre on Navarro, must have been spread to the winds, and Armor and Paz went and found them. How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about it? I'm curious about who's going to show up when we get to the end of it all there. But this is a large galaxy with so many Mandalorians to scoop up, so to speak.
Yeah.
Waiting for the scoop.
Excellent. Well, we'll keep scooping Mandalorians for now. You have any other canon things you noticed or wanted to talk about?
Just the R5 and Carson work together. We've already kind of had this Peli saying, hey, he fought in the rebellion, and just referring to R5 and just a little bit more of R5's story. There's a lot there. I still have those weird moments of, and I mean this in a good way, of like, that's R5. That's New Hope R5. And here he is. He's gone on to wonderful things. And I enjoy that he and Carson work together. And Carson's view of him, like, we serve together, not looking down on R5. And then I think I jokingly mentioned it before, but yeah, Navarro, that they have Bullock Canyon. Obviously a reference to Jeremy Bullock. I just kind of like that connection there too.
Yeah, no, that's really, really great. Thanks for pulling those two things out. The R5 thing was great. Because, yeah, sometimes in The Mandalorian, it's just, don't worry about how it happened. He found the place.
Yeah.
I kind of like that, since the covert being secret is such a big deal.
Yeah.
That it was pointed out to how, and it also still had kind of a story of unity and honor. And I loved his line about, like, I know you're going to move anyway, but I'm not going to tell anybody where you are. He's honorable Carson Teva. Did you have a favorite action moment? There's some big action scenes. What grabbed you?
There was a lot in here. I think, really loved the overall look of any dogfight they've had this season, including some of the stuff. I love just even the shots of Bo-Katan flying. There's something about the lighting; it just looks so good. It looks really great, and I think we you and I talked about before. Sometimes previous seasons of Mando, the tech wasn't quite there, or didn't look as good. That one in Chapter 5 is not one of my favorite action fights in Star Wars. It's looking really good. And so even just the moment the two ships crashing into each other, love that. Just love the snub fighters launching, how they launched, all those little details.
Yeah, everything looked great. The design of the pirate corsair looked great. And yeah, I think that's what I responded to the most is some of the ship action. I did love the pirates jumping in the gun whales. And they had that great connection to the LAAT's circular manned swiveling gun ports.
Yeah.
So that was great to see, and it had that this is a spaceship, but everything about it is a pirate boat. Helm or tiller, I looked up. The boat wheel, helm or tiller. And I'm sure we'll get some nautical corrections. So it goes. But anyway, I love that scene of the pirates, and I just love so much that the N1 continues to be this amazing ship. We talk about it being a symbol of flexibility and change and the benefits of that and just joy. It's a fun ship to fly, but I love how unstoppable Din is in it. The dodging between the two ships and causing them to collide. To me, a toss up whether it goes in action or comedy, but I like that he's above you, he's below you.
Yeah.
It highlights the speed and maneuverability of the N1, and that people just can't step to it is really fun.
Yeah. No, what a victory for N1 fans and Phantom Menace fans. Indeed, we've just talked about that before, but it's not gotten old on me. I was at my friend's house this weekend, and one of his sons had the N1 Lego set there on the shelf, and he had built it. I spent a couple minutes just staring at it. It's so good.
Yeah, and it looked great in this episode. Yeah. For some of the other action, I like Paz Vizsla stomping around. I like that, the heavy gunner thing. But man, the armor, as much as the character remains to be a mystery that is fully unfurled. I do like her in action. I really liked her using the one pirate as cover and then throwing the talking hammer.
Yeah. No, the armor stuff is great. I in wrestling, a lot of times when an older wrestler comes back or someone you haven't seen in action comes back, the crowd chants, "You still got it." The armor never necessarily left, but we haven't seen her in this fight in a couple of years, and I was chanting, "You still got it," while she was hammering along.
Yeah, absolutely great stuff. Any other action moments for you?
So even though it was in the trailer and we've been kind of waiting for it since Celebration, I do love a good, hey, we're approaching the drop point moment and bays are open and everyone jumped out. I thought that was fun. That was good. Seeing Paz Vizsla in action, that heavy blaster. That's still the class I play. If I play Battlefront 2, I haven't played in a while, but that's the class. So I love seeing all that. And I thought, again, just the way I love Chapter 3 back to Season 1, but I thought even as the tech grows, and I always have to remind myself to give all tech, even now in this season, time to grow and change as they accomplish things more and more. Always focus on the story, always focus on the why, but I can't help but looking at the screen sometimes being like, I don't know if that looked as good, or them fighting in the street, just the look of the gear, the way it was shot. I really loved everything about that.
Yeah, it looked really great to me. I enjoyed it very much, very much. And yeah, there's still sometimes every once in a while I'm like, is this maybe the volume? But a lot of it looks way better to me.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So awesome. Let's move into comedy, whimsy, weirdos. There's a lot going on here that I really enjoyed. What were some fun moments that you enjoyed?
Look, I don't think it's nice or maybe even appropriate to say, but I like the energy behind it sometimes. I get a little grumpy too. Move Out Blue Boy is a t-shirt, a bumper sticker, and a way of life I want to live now. I love it. Move out, Blue Boy. And then even Din going, "You gotta go, Blue." Like, just love that.
Yeah, I love and I assume that's just from the primary color of the New Republic logo. Blue Boys, blues. Yeah, that's great world building. It was really Paz had some good triumphant moments to me, but in general, I don't know that I'd like to hang out with Paz.
Yeah,
he seems like a bit of a of a bully.
Eh,
So clear out, blue boy. I was like,
Yeah.
that was funny.
I have some positive thoughts. I'll tell you off air. But yes, yes, great moment.
Yeah. I loved that this episode started with Grief Karga playing Sim City.
Oh God, yeah, no, it's so funny. Because I absolutely love SimCity, and I was like, I didn't see that. Oh wait, no, you're right. literally doing it. No, we got to move this. The tracks are here.
Yeah,
A tornado's
move the trade district closer to the shipping terminals. Wait a minute, where's the rail spur? Wait, I got to get these people to start having kids. Like, yeah.
Did we put water underneath? Did we connect the pipes underneath the city? Yeah.
How long have they been locked in that room? They'll choke. Yeah. It's just, I love his enthusiasm. Like, he had all that enthusiasm about being the guild leader of the Navarro hunters, right? And he's got all this enthusiasm for building something. It's so great.
Yeah.
I also liked Zeb's. I like your attitude to Carson. That was, it wasn't like a straight up joke.
Yeah.
It was just like mood, personality, beautiful stuff.
Yeah, I can dig that.
Other stuff for you?
I put in comedy. I gotta, I said earlier, I don't really, Vane's not my favorite, but I did love, he's above you, he's below you. I absolutely think that is a great Star Wars bit there. Love that. And Zellen's going, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Shirley Anderson doing that. That made me laugh.
I didn't pick that up. That's what they were saying until I watched with the subtitles with the captions. So that was great. That one will probably be deployed on social media. That's great.
Right. Yeah. So final beats for me. You mentioned earlier, but the Kowakian spy, I'm calling him, which we get a trailer shot, right? So we've been waiting for that one. Now to see it full context, it's even better. Of like they're over there. They're going to ambush you. They shot at us earlier, so F them. Go get them.
Is so funny, right? I mean, go back to 1983, and we love Salacious B. Crumb. We love Boba Fett. We're like, they're going to be a whole society of Boba Fett people in a tree full of monkey lizards, and they're gonna work together. With it's funny, and it is also like it's so thematic of like, hey, Navarro is actually great. This tree's for monkey lizards. This is our home, and everybody leaves us alone, and even though we point and laugh at them all the time, and screw these pirates. We're siding with the Mandalorians. Great,
everyone matters. Love that.
Yep.
And then final one for me, just drunk Quarren was hilarious.
I was betting you were going to put that extremely convincing tipsy Quarren stumbling out of the school was absolutely great. A couple more for me. I love the Tim Meadows casting. I love the kind of weird surprise casting. The Colonel Tuttle, I think I called him Lieutenant earlier. Colonel Tuttle. I love that little beat of comedy. No. Do not put any more stuff on that part of my desk. That's my work area. And then just that belligerent, overworked droid being like, too bad. It was funny because it's relatable. I have too much stuff on my work area on my desk. And also, I like comedy that's like, it just feels like a little light beat, but it's also really supporting what's going on, the world building of like all of that is these piles and piles of tasks. And to me, it's just a funny joke, but it's also building this picture of Colonel Tuttle isn't a bad guy that we've seen. He's got more than he can possibly do, right? So I like jokes that are fun and then have a little bit of oomph to them.
Yeah, no, there's something going back to, you just made me think of Tim Meadows' character. Yeah, there's a cold disconnect that's running through the New Republic, but it's sometimes like, if you're not careful, maybe that's part of the lessons. Yeah, you could be part of it there, but I felt some of the moments with him. And then when you can find a way out, that's why you got Kane there manipulating. You can find a way out. Oh, yeah, you're right. Let's teach him a lesson. I got to get to these Post-it notes.
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah. And I hope he pops back up because I think he's a good perspective character. And I got a Tim Meadows bias. He was on Saturday Night Live when I was watching a lot, and I got the opportunity to work with him on a radio show I used to do in Minneapolis, and got to write a sketch for him, and he was super, super, super great to work with. So I've got a little bit of Tim Meadows bias.
No, I've that Saturday Night Live. That's one of my eras too, and I haven't worked with him, but I exchanged eye glances at the farmer's market one day when I was the security director. He was struggling with his kids, and I just was standing there. He looks at me and he gives me one of those like, yeah, right. And I went, yeah, right. I just like, I'm a fan.
Yeah. So I hope that he comes back because I think it's fun casting, and I think that's an interesting perspective, and to also see him. We haven't really talked about it a bunch because we have so much to talk about, but I did think it was really interesting to see like that Kane's, really lit up at, problems on Navarro. It felt to me like that she knows that that's a move that someone is taking, in that she really does appropriate the positive message of the episode to try to manipulate Tuttle. And to poke Teva, right? She's got her line. But from experience, it often takes a new perspective before one is able to see the light. And so in some ways, that line is like, okay, well, that's what we're saying we hope has happened to the armor. We hope that she's seen a new perspective from Din and Bo-Katan, and she's seen the light. But we're seeing that from Kane, who we know doesn't believe it. She would spit on that phrase. But she knows that other people have the hope and the kindness to believe that, and shows she's manipulating people with it. It made me happy that we spent so much time with Kane, and that we know that she's all in on the Imperial vision, and that she is spouting this line in a horribly manipulative way.
No, truly brings clarity to her purpose in that scene and the story so far. Love them.
Yeah. So we are starting to wrap up here. Is there anything that we haven't touched on that you wanted to?
No, I did want to address the music in the pilot bar. You did. I put that here. I apologize for Carson Teva versus Tiva. It's a Star Wars tradition, and you don't know till you know.
You don't know till you know, and it was Teva in this episode. So, it feels weird coming out of my mouth. But the only other thing we haven't talked about, I got distracted, and after I finished the episode, I realized I didn't register what the title of the episode was because I was so taken by the music. Being this slightly different kind of pirate shanty version of the opening music. It's like, awesome. That's really cool to have something different.
Yeah, no, I love that. And I'm going to the music too as well. It happened again, but just the Resistance theme showing up now, but attached to Carson. I kind of love that and love the meaning of that. I loved it in the previous chapter 3, right at the amount of Umat, but really worked Carson.
Yeah, absolutely. So we're learning more about the shape of the season, the shape of the Mandoverse. We are running out of shots from trailers. Do you have predictions or hopes for next week or for the rest of the season?
We're going to be 52 minutes in a droid bar next week is what we got here.
Oh, that's right.
I think... Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to ruin that for anyone who has forgot about that. Predictions, hopes for next week. I think hopes is other Mandos, man. And I'm not just talking about rumors. I know there's been a lot of rumors out there. Fen Ra being one of them. He's a very interesting character, so I'm there for that rumor. I don't think the armor is Rook cast. I don't think so. I don't want her to be. Maybe more than don't think so. But there's a character that's potentially still on the board. Axe Woes, Koska Reeves. There's a lot of Mandos out there, like we were just talking about, and we got this great cliffhanger. It's a great mystery. Is Gideon? Did Gideon set it up that way? Is it Death Watch return? Is it anything like that? Is it people that he had maybe when he was in charge or working over there at Mandalore kind of liked what he did? You and I've always said that Moff Gideon is the big bad for this particular show and season because of his relationship to Mandalore. So that was a great little thing. I know, I got to be patient, but I hope we start getting some payoff for that soon.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of people interpreted Bo-Katan's reaction to the size of the Imperial force that decimated her home, that this is too big for some warlord remnant, and people interpreted that as here comes Thrawn. That could absolutely be correct. I think I continue to feel that is Gideon has more power than they realize, and he always has, is the way that I've taken that. And he has moved the chess pieces on the board, and this is that Carson Teva is correct, and these events are connected. And it feels right for me for the big question to be, can the Mandalorians come together enough to defeat Gideon? Gideon would want revenge. He would want power. He would want to prove that he is stronger than the Mandalorians. and he also knows how to push their buttons to break them apart, right? He knows that the armor and Bo-Katan are kind of eyeing that Dark Saber. He knows that Din cares more about Grogu than anything else. I'm really interested to see what the story is, and it could be an absolutely great manipulation of Moff Gideon to leave that Beskar there, because he knows that the New Republic will go, actually, we got to bring the hammer down on the Mandalorians.
Yeah, a lot of different ways to go with that, and I like that. That's what I love.
Yeah. Two other thoughts for me. I'm very curious to see if we get to see more of Grogu and Kelleran Beck's story, and if so, what will trigger the rest of Grogu's trauma memories. If in any big confrontation, how much Grogu's power as a Jedi will make a difference. I'm excited for the Grogu stuff. The big line from Carson, that this is all connected, something more is going on. He says, and by the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it'll be too late. I like that does feel like it's talking to the sequel trilogy, right? The sequel era of like, yep. By the time the First Order is clearly as big of a threat, it's too late, right? And you can, you got that feeling that Carson Teva could be like, go watch this exact minute of The Force Awakens, right?
Yeah.
But I'm also thinking that, there's a real awareness of there's 30 years of storytelling to happen here.
Yeah.
And I feel like what we might be building toward is philosophically, yes, it's the same issue.
Yes.
That the New Republic does not take the threat of the First Order seriously enough. But I wonder if we're heading to a Gideon showdown, a Thrawn showdown, both a Gideon and a Thrawn showdown, that Carson Teva hopes people will learn the lesson of, like, these threats are going to keep coming and we need to be responsive to them.
Yeah.
But I wonder if it's going to be a story of, in this general time period, a Gideon showdown, a Thrawn showdown, and the New Republic learns the wrong lesson. Learns the lesson that it's over. That the Empire has popped up twice now. It cost us, but we slapped them back down. It's over. We need it to be over. So by the time the First Order is emerging, they're like, it has to be over.
Not again, right? Yeah.
Not again. And look what happened. Everybody worried about Gideon. Everybody worried about Thrawn. Everybody worried about the pirate kings in the mid-rim. We slapped them all down, and it's fine. It's fine. Yeah.
I am really with you on that. I think it is an absolute line that references, it speaks to the sequel trilogy, but I do not think The Mandalorian as a show is going out to super connect to it, to definitely not to fix it. Love those thumbnails out there. I think it's spiritual. I think it's thematic. Remember before even Mando, the show showed up. Not Filoni, Favreau had you'll find out the origins of the First Order, which was a quote pulled out of a larger answer in a larger interview, and that never was, because Ray Sloan's there, and a character I'd love to see, of course. And we're going to get that. I still think that I think it connects in that overall way, but I I just talked about loving this character and definitely loving the performer. But Carson Teva, I'm going to say it wrong until I get it right. Carson is saying that to Tim Meadows, a colonel with a lot of post-it notes on his desk. He's not saying that to Mothma. He's not saying that to Senator so-and-so or any, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to talk down to Tim Meadows' character, but it's just speaking of what's going on. And there is something going on. And Carson knows that. And the Empire could rebuild and all those things. So yes, it does, I think, mean the First Order, but I don't take it yet as a direct, we're going to cut to the unknown regions and Brendel Hux and his son Armitage are there with Ray Sloan, and that's where we're going. I don't think so. I just don't.
Yeah. And I think we could maybe get some of that, but I feel like there's just such an excitement in the interviews with the creators about this huge expansive time period, you know? And I feel like there's room to tell lots of stories, and that there's a desire to keep exploring this era. So I think that's my big picture thing is when Carson Teva says, and by the time it becomes big enough for you to act, it'll be too late. It's thematic breadcrumbs leading up to how many times did the New Republic wrestle with this decision? And eventually it is the attitude that leads to a deadly complacency, but not right around the corner because we have years of stories to tell.
Decades. So, yeah. And I don't mean, that's something I'm not saying to put out any fires of people who want some of those revealed. Again, it's not that I don't think some of this cloning tech, even some stuff that's been at play in 2 seasons of Bad Batch, that it won't somehow factor in some way. I just don't think it's going to that directly.
Yeah, I think there's every possibility that it will connect, but I don't think there's a rush to give answers, Yeah. All right. So we are excited to keep talking about more of what's coming for The Mandalorian and the overall Mandoverse and the Ahsoka show, all that great stuff. But now we're going to get down to our final and most important topic, Ken. Besides Gorian shard bedsheets, what action figure or merch do you want inspired by this episode?
I mean, you're not going to give me a drunk Quarren and Trandoshan playset, a 2-pack, drinking at the school. You're not going to give me that. All right, that's fair. No, that's what I want. I want that. There's a lot of cool things I mentioned earlier. Give me that. I love that pirate ship, Corsair ship they got there. That's great. Give me a Lego set of that. I can deal with that. And a Gorian shard, Funko Pop / Chia Pet would be great as well. And I'm sure they're joking in other places, but that would be good. But I just back in the. Not even the Kenner days, but that Power of the Force 2, that era into the early 2000s, actually that 2007 30th anniversary line, Drunk Quarren would be a figure.
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I wouldn't put it past Hasbro since they have made the Navarro Cantina as a playset. With just a little remodeling, they could add, some broken windows and some exclusive Drunk Quarren action figure.
Green, I don't even know if that was Spotchka, but, something.
Yeah. Some other fluid in a Spotchka bottle. I like that we switched up a little bit from Spotchka. So it's a lot of different drinks flowing. I want so many action figures. I want the weird little pirate Ugnaught. I definitely want Pilot Zeb. Hey, I want any 3 3/4 Zeb, but I'd definitely take a realistic looking Pilot Zeb. Great. We've been waiting. We got teased by the awesomeness of Carson Teva in casual drinking jacket.
Yeah.
And I definitely want that. I suppose we should. You mentioned it, but it's great to see the Y-wing. So let's get that. It was great to see. I continue to love the gauntlet. I love the canon of Bo-Katan saying this is the exact class of it. So I would not be surprised to see that be a HasLab set, and then you can drop all your Mandos out of it.
But actually drop them.
Yep. Final thing. This is something that I would build if I were an eccentric billionaire. If I were an eccentric billionaire, and I needed an alarm system, I would build a Kowakian monkey lizard tree where the monkey lizards are the cameras.
Yes.
When somebody is, trespassing, they point and they screech, and that is my alarm system.
I wonder if I have, some Ring cameras. I wonder if I can get one of those Kowakian monkey lizards from Galaxy's Edge and put the camera inside.
This seems like a tech bash that's worth doing.
I'm on it.
Yeah, great stuff. Watch those monkey lizards just with joy in my heart, and can't wait to hear Jennifer Lando's reaction. All right, Ken, where can people find us?
Man, you want to find us? Here's all your spots right here. Just bring your Kowakian monkey lizard Ring cameras to the party, and you got us. We're on Twitter at Force Center Pod. Hive Social at Force Center if you're over there. Some of you are, I know. Instagram is Force Center Pod, and don't forget Facebook. YouTube, you could subscribe over there. Or, hey, if you're listening to this rebroadcast on YouTube, subscribe. We got a lot of things coming, including live Q&A, shorts, a lot of videos. When we're in Celebration London, you want to be connected to the YouTube channel so you can get up-to-date shorts that pop up and all that kind of stuff. But the podcast remains strong, and you can listen to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and more. Merch available at tpublic.com/user/Force Center. And you can support us directly at patreon.com/Force Center. Follow me at Ken Napzok. Go to my website, kennapzok.com. Joseph, for you,
Yeah, you can find me on the social media as well. All of my social media presence is under @JosephScrimshaw. You can find me on Instagram, Twitter. I'm on Mastodon, lots of different places. Still on TikTok. You can also go to my YouTube channel. Just search for Joseph Scrimshaw, and you'll find plenty of short films and comedy and stuff like that. And for Force Center in general, like I said, we have that interesting Questions of the Force episode that we recorded before this episode. We got a little bit of time travel in there. But if you're interested in these kind of Mandalorian discussions, we go pretty deep on some of this. What is happening next? Who are the children of the Watch? All that kind of stuff. And one more reminder about our live Q&A this Friday, March 31st, 2 p.m. Pacific. We're going to be talking lots of Star Wars, Mando, Bad Batch, our upcoming trip to Star Wars Celebration, and some other center time where we talk about cars. I don't know why I'm obsessed with. I'm sure everybody's just bursting with car questions.
Hey, I used to collect Matchbox cars and Hot Wheels back in the day, right? So let's talk about that.
I had one Hot Wheel. I'm sure there'll be a lot of discussion there. Anyway, it's a hangout. We love hanging out with you and hearing your thoughts in the comments as well. So if you'd like to join us, that's where we will be this Friday. But for now, for myself, for Ken, for Carson Tava, this has been the Mandalorian Report.